All right, everyone. Welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang. As always, Jamie is out. He is out writing. He is out doing things, getting ready. He has six thoughts on a Thursday and all those other things. So he's writing, and I just wanted to do a quick show. Like, obviously, there's a lot going on right now with Notre Dame and reports and all those other things. And Pete Thamel tweeted out the hiring or the potential hiring of Gino Guidugli from formerly of Cincinnati. He is now at Wisconsin. He was going to be the quarterback coach over there, working with Phil Longo and Fickle, who he brought over from Cincinnati. He's been at Cincinnati for a couple of years. So I just thought it would be a good idea to just kind of talk things through. Obviously, there's a report from Football Scoop that Jared Parker's they reported that Jared Parker is going to be the offensive coordinator. That has not been confirmed by Irish Sports Daily, so I'm not going to talk about that. If that's something that's definitely happening, right? That hasn't been confirmed by us, and we also aren't confirming that Chris Watt is even likely to be the offensive line coach, right? So that's what's been reported, but we're not reporting that. Okay, so it's at this point unconfirmed. We don't know that that's going to be the case. It might be the case, obviously, and I think when everyone saw the the report from Thamel that came out that Gino Guidugli was going to be or was likely to be the quarterback coach, that led everyone to kind of believe, well, then that stands to reason that it certainly makes it more likely that Jared Parker will be the choice at offensive coordinator, right? Just by nature of the fact that, any offensive coordinator that they've been looking at OC quarterback coaches, right? That's what Colin Klein was. That's what Andy Ludwig was, right? And those are kind of all the names that have been associated with the position. They've all been OC quarterback coaches. So it obviously makes it more likely that Jared Parker, that's the direction they're going to go in. So I just wanted to talk about that possibility a little bit. And just in terms of, obviously that would be something that, I mean, look, it's not Notre Dame's first choice, right? Like, that's self-evident, right? It's not what they were looking to do originally. They were after Colin Klein. They were after Andy Ludwig, and obviously the Ludwig situation is what it is, as far as whether or not it was Notre Dame was willing to pay the buyout, or when they knew the details of the buyout, and all those other things. That is that's it's been talked about. Jamie and I talked about it on yesterday. You can go back and listen to that show. I don't really want to go into it again, but obviously it would be it's not Notre Dame's the first thing they wanted to do, right? That's not what they were looking to do. So if Jared Parker would at least be a plan B in that situation. And Joey Madigan says, like, the writing is on the wall with the hiring of Gino as the quarterback coach. I mean, if nothing else, it certainly makes it more likely. That's just, again, that's like self-evident. And so here's the thing with Jared Parker. What thing I'm not going to do, like, let's say in the event that it becomes him, right? One thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go venting about it. I'm not going to go whining about it, or like just kind of emoting about how it went or what it is. Like, look, Jared Parker had nothing to do with the reason that things broke down. Okay, he that was not his fault. He is not involved in that, right? And I'm not going to lament about him, the faults of the administration and the way things went, right? That's not his fault, and that's not his responsibility, and I'm not going to blame that on him, and I'm not going to kind of take it out on him, I guess, for a better way to put it. I do think there would be some positives from the situation. I think it's a good thing that Marcus Freeman would have someone who is wanting to be the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Like, that is a huge goal of his, like not looking to do like anything else at this point. Like, he wants to be the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He's not bitter about like not being the head coach. He's not bitter about the way people are viewing it. It's like, this is a position that he wants, and he is in, to use a word that's very popular right now, in alignment with Marcus Freeman and what they're trying to do, right? And I think that it would be, and I also think it would be a good thing for him to work with Gino Guidugli, who's worked with really good quarterbacks. I mean, look, he has between of the two OCs that we've been looking at, or that Notre Dame's been looking at. You have Colin Klein, who has no recent history of developing a top quarterback. You have Andy Ludwig, who has no recent history of developing a top quarterback. Gino Guidugli developed Ritter from Cincinnati, right? That's just true. Desmond Ritter, he was a first round pick. He developed him into a solid player, and so like that's just true. I've wanted Notre Dame to go after someone who had a history of developing quarterbacks. Gino Guidugli did. Okay, so that's you kind of check that box as far as getting someone like that onto the staff, right? Let's just focus on Guidugli for a second. Third round pick. That's true. I knew when I said that he was a third round pick. But still, he was a no star quarterback coming out of college or coming out of high school, and he got him into a third round pick, right? That's a good job. That's higher pick. And I say first round pick because a lot of people were talking about him as a potential first round pick. I think that's what I had in my mind. I mean, basically turned a low rated player into, an upper, second day draft pick, right? So that's more than you can say for Colin Klein. That's more than you can say for Andy Ludwig. And Andy Ludwig's been doing it for like a really long time, right? So there's that part of it. That checks a box that I wanted in kind of the coaching search. Now, I wanted that person to be the offensive coordinator, not just the quarterback coach, but I think that helps, right? And I think that helps Parker as well. And I think if they did bring in Parker, I don't think there would be any sort of like, this would not be just Parker's show, in my opinion, because he hasn't been doing it for very long. Gino Guidugli's had a lot to say with the game plans that are at Cincinnati. He's had a lot to say with the play calls at Cincinnati. He was a play caller for Cincinnati last year when they lost Desmond Ritter, and they still were a double-digit win team. Matthew Peterson says, I have a feeling we may see co-OCs. I don't know if it'll be that in name, but I'm very confident that Guidugli would have a big say in the game plan. I think he would probably be up in the booth. I feel like Jared Parker is a on the field guy. I think at least one of them will be up in the booth, right? And one of them will be on the field. I think that can pay big dividends as well, right? I think we saw a collaboration like that with Tommy Rees and John McNulty. I think this would be a better collaboration, frankly, when you have one guy focused strictly on the quarterbacks and another person focused strictly on play calls and that sort of thing. So I agree with Matthew Peterson. I think that we could see something like OCs. And so that's kind of my opinion on that. Craig D says, at the end of the day, no matter, I'm cheering for Notre Dame. That's cool, right? A lot of people are a lot of people have the opposite, like they're saying they're giving up their season tickets and that sort of thing. So I appreciate the sentiment. Chris P says, don't think anyone questioning he's aligned and keeping consistency to some extent. That in no way qualifies him for the position. So that's true, right? I don't think that I don't want to say that, like, I don't want to come across as someone who thinks this is like great, like this is a great thing that's happening. Like, clearly, if they went with Jared Parker, it would be a huge risk. It would be a huge risk. Like, you are like like Marcus Freeman would really be putting himself out there, right? Like as far as just the floor would be much like if it was Andy Ludwig, in my opinion, like the floor is like you're looking at like 9 and 10 wins as a floor. You go with Jared Parker, who hasn't really called plays, he called plays for 6 games in West Virginia. They went 4-2 and that sort of thing. And okay, whatever. And the West Virginia stuff, like he took over a 2-4 team. It wasn't his offense. It wasn't any of that stuff, right? Like he's calling plays within the framework of someone else's offense, right? So that's what he's doing. I don't like the West Virginia stuff, good and bad. I don't really take much out of that. Like, I don't know what he would run as far as structure. I don't know if he's like going to install air raid principles. I assume not, because I don't think that's what Marcus Freeman wants. I think he would want to try to keep the principles that are already in place. That seems to be what Marcus Freeman's looking for, right? Colin Klein was a power run guy. He did it out of spread, which I liked, frankly. But he a very strong running game at Kansas State. Obviously, Andy Ludwig had a very strong running game at Utah. I think that's what he's looking for. I don't think he wants anyone, Jared Parker included, to come in and run a air raid type offense. I don't think that's what he's looking for. I don't think that's what Jared Parker is looking for. But we don't know. I'm going to get to that in a second, Matthew. We don't know specifically. Like Robert Tazi, do they keep the same playbook? I don't know that. We don't know. We don't know that they would do that. That's a question for, like, I don't know if they're going to have a press conference or what. Parker played a season at Kentucky for Mummy. Perhaps some air raid isn't out of the question. That's possible. It's possible, right? I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, that's not what Freeman was looking for previously. It would be strange for him to make a pivot like that and go to somebody who doesn't like have the expertise in that and doesn't have proven expertise in that, to go away from what Marcus Freeman, like, I think that would be surprising to me, but we'll see. Let's see. This is not coming up. There we go. No. Joey Madigan. Parker be able to dissect the defense? That's $1 million question, since he has had limited OC experience. Joey, that's a great question, right? And that's what makes this so risky for them, is that we don't know that. He doesn't know that. Marcus Freeman can't really know. He can believe in it and he can have faith in it, but he doesn't know. And that's the problem. That's what makes this, like in my opinion, like the reaction that people have about Parker, it's not that we know he's bad. We don't know that, but we don't have any proof that he's good either. Like, you look at Andy Ludwig, like every offensive coordinator that's been named, right? We look at them and we look at what they've done and what their numbers are and what they've done in previous situations. And then you say, okay, I'm going to project this onto Notre Dame, right? And then you make an evaluation. Like, I think this is a good idea. I think this is a bad idea. Like, Jared Parker doesn't have any of that. He doesn't. Not enough, right? He doesn't have enough. And so that's the question. And that's what makes it so risky. And that's why I personally, like, before the process started, would not have loved it. I would not. Like, it's too much of a risk, in my opinion. You're at Notre Dame. You can bring in someone who's proven, who's shown it over and over again, right? So that's what I think Notre Dame should have done. So here's the thing. Greg Wasserman says, let's quit spinning this. Notre Dame settled on the cheap. That's valid. You can think that. Like, it's not like someone says that and I'm like, yeah, they didn't, right? I'm trying to think of ways. I'm trying to say, like, okay, if this is what the situation is, these are some positives that I think that come with the situation. The big caveat that it hangs over everything is that we don't know. It is a huge risk for Freeman to do this. No question, right? And if people don't like it, I understand, because Notre Dame went from a perennial 10-win team to a 9-win team last year because of the quarterback situation. And now you're giving that operation to someone who was your at least third choice, who doesn't have a history of being a play caller, let alone a proven play caller. That's not a good situation, right? That's not, I don't want to say it's not a good situation. It's not an ideal situation, right? So look, I'm not spinning it, right? I'm trying to say, okay, if this is the direction they end up going, and again, ISD has not confirmed it, right? So that has not been confirmed by Irish Sports Daily. So there's a possibility that the report is incorrect. That's very possible, right? I'm not saying it's not, but I think that since it's out there, and since it's the fact that Jared Parker did, and Irish Sports Daily did confirm that he last night, Matt Freeman reported that Jared Parker had interviewed with Notre Dame. That's out there too. So obviously this is possible. So I want to talk it through. So in the event that it does get confirmed, like we've gone over it a little bit, and if it doesn't, then we'll move on to another person. So Brian Shaw is talking about Sherrone Moore. He's a co-OC O-line coach. I don't want to go over candidates like Sherrone Moore because there's no reason to think that he's getting the job. Like Jamie and I talked about people on Tuesday who are like, I like Andy Kettlenicki from Kansas, right? I would love if Notre Dame was talking to him. His offense last year was fantastic, and they were very explosive, and they had a great running game, and they used motion, like a lot of the same stuff that Reese did in terms of using motion to confuse defenses and create leverage and create mismatches in that sense. Notre Dame's never talked to him. He's never been associated with Notre Dame, so I don't want to go into like him or Sherrone Moore or anyone because they haven't been linked to Notre Dame. Let's see. Tyler Borgman says, I don't think we have to stick to 100% pro style all the time. Incorporate sets that will do best for the players we have. So, I mean, pro style is just route concepts, right? And run concepts. It's not specifically like 2 tight ends or 2 backs or any of these other things. Like Notre Dame runs what pro style now means pro concepts, right? Like a lot of the stuff that Notre Dame ran with their passing game, those were pro style concepts. Like for example, the slow mesh stuff that Sam Hartman does, not pro style concepts. That's not what it is, right? Like that's not what they're doing at the professional level, and therefore, he wanted to get out of that, right? So I don't think pro style means the concepts that you're running, not necessarily the sets, right? Like a lot of pro teams run 2 tight end and that sort of thing, but a lot are spread out, like more spread out, like just the Super Bowl we just watched, like the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like so, that's kind of how I feel about it. Let's see. Brian Shaw says between Loy, Football Scoop, Driscoll, and Steve Wiltfong, they all have different opinions on who's OC. It's not guaranteed to be Parker. Between Irish Sports Daily, right? It's not guaranteed. There was the one report from Football Scoop, but it wasn't. I mean, to my knowledge, as of right now, it hasn't been confirmed by anyone. So that's what it is, right? And Irish Sports Daily hasn't put it out there. But I just think we should. I just wanted to talk about what's out there right now, and just kind of talk it over, right? I think people like to talk it over, so that's what we're doing here. Let's see. Joe says I'm waiting to see on the O-line hire. Yeah, for sure. I think that's interesting, right? I Chris Watt's name has been, not just from Football Scoop, but just generally speaking, been linked to Notre Dame, and because he's obviously been a GA there, and he played under Harry Hiestand. He's worked with Harry Hiestand as a GA. Personally, I don't think that he's ready for that type of job. I think Notre Dame can get a more proven O-line coach than that. I think Irish Sports Daily is gonna maybe compile a list of guys. I'm not really sure what Jamie and Matt and those guys want to do with it. I think I would say check out irishsportsdaily.com later in the day for some names that might be associated with the O-line position. If it doesn't happen to be Chris Watt, I'm not sure it's going to be Chris Watt. That would surprise me. To me, just even though it was in the article, like it would surprise me if it ended up being him, just because of the inexperience. Notre Dame it's just like the Jared Parker thing, like Notre Dame, and it's a lot easier to find, I think, in my opinion, like a good O-line coach than it would be like an OC, where it's like Jared Parker has been around a lot of offenses for a lot more than Chris Watt has. So I just think like even he's less experienced than Jared Parker is as a O-line guy. So I don't think Brent Smith says Reese leaves, Harry leaves, they drop the ball with Ludwig. So what's next? The mesh offense. I don't think they're going to bring back the mesh, because I don't think Sam Hartman wants to do the mesh. And so, yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. Sam Hartman eases a lot of concerns in 23 regarding OC. 24, on the other hand, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, Mitchell. We were talking about on Tuesday how if it's Jared Parker, like I think Sam Hartman could cover up a lot of weaknesses and inefficiencies and that sort of thing. And I think he'll do a good job as far as like having Sam Hartman. Like, I think that's would be a great position for him to be in. But like, what do you do beyond that? How does he work with Tyler Buckner? How does he work with Kenny Minchie? How does he work with Steve Angeli? We don't really know. So that again, that would be a major kind of question. Susanna Cruz, like, how do you know that? How do you know that? You don't. Like, that's the thing. I think people take the fact that he's unproven and the fact that he hasn't had a lot of time in it. It's like, how do you know what he is or what he isn't? The risk is in that you don't know. You don't know that. Like, he called plays for 6 games and he went 4-2 and he put up over 30 points in 3 of those games. Like, you don't know. That's the thing. I understand that this is not everyone's favorite hire or whatever, but it's a risk in that you don't know. There's too much uncertainty, and you shouldn't have this much uncertainty when you're looking for the offensive coordinator at the University of Notre Dame after all the success they had. That is not good process. Like we've talked about a bunch. That is not a good process. That is not a good. That is not. He was demoted by someone who was later fired. Like, that person didn't do a good job, right? Like, to me, that, like, you're just looking at facts. Like, he was demoted, he must be terrible. You don't know that. You don't. And so, like, a lot of people, like, I've seen it so much on Twitter too. Like, anytime I post about it, it's like, oh, he's terrible. His offense is terrible. How do you know what his offense is? How do you know? Did you break down the film? Like, were you looking at, were all of you like big connoisseurs of West Virginia football in 2021? No. So you weren't. So don't tell, like, you can't say he was terrible. You don't know that he was terrible. You don't know that he was working with. You don't know the situation that he was in. You don't know that, right? The reason that it's not a great position to be in is because, again, I'll say it over and over again, the uncertainty is the thing that makes it not great. You don't want to be in this position. It is not a great position. NetH says the process stinks. It does. That's true. It does. No one is disputing that. I went off on Tuesday, on yesterday's show. I went crazy on them because it's not good process. They, in my opinion, they should have paid for Ludwig. They should have. They didn't. That's not Jared Parker's fault. We don't know. Why was he so far down the list of candidates? Because he's an unknown. He doesn't have anything proven. That's why. That's why. Why was Pete Carroll so far down the list of candidates at USC? Why was he? Why was Todd Monken so far down the list at Georgia? Because there was bad evidence there, right? It doesn't mean that there's no negatives. I mean, there's no positives to this. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean there's no positives. It just means that they're taking a huge risk. Marcus Freeman is taking a huge risk. It doesn't mean it won't work. It could. It could. There you go. Lori Rush. Sometimes you're only as good as your leadership. Who knows? Maybe he was a threat to Parker's former boss. Right. So look, maybe it was a head coaching problem. Maybe it was a head coaching problem in West Virginia. I don't know. I don't know that. But my point is like, I didn't want it to be going into it. I didn't think Jared Parker would be a great choice. And neither did Marcus Freeman because he didn't target him first. Right. You're going with a route that it brings so many negatives into play for Marcus Freeman. That's why he didn't do this. That's why you don't go with that, because it brings in so many negatives. And the other part too is I think if they thought that he was like a rising up and comer, we would have heard that. We didn't hear that. That was not something that was said prior to this. Okay. So I don't see a positive. You don't have to see a positive. That's fine. I'm not trying to convince people. I'm giving my opinion on why I think there are some positives to this. Okay. Like, is it a positive for Notre Dame that Tommy Rees is a better coordinator than Jared Parker, but is looking to leave as soon as possible? Is that a positive for Notre Dame? Or is it better for Jared Parker to be fully invested in the Notre Dame football program for multiple years? Is that better? I don't know. I could see it being better. I can understand why it would be better, but that's something that I could see like, yeah, that might be better. Look at 9-4 and none of the quarterbacks get developed. That was the situation last year. Who got developed at Notre Dame? And they went 9-4 and lost to Stanford and Marshall, right? And everybody, like Tommy Rees was coming back, and it wasn't like, the sky is falling and everyone's screaming, right? That wasn't the case, right? So that's what I'm saying. I think Notre Dame had an opportunity to really kind of take the next step, and I don't think they did that. And that is a fault of process. It is a fault of how they went about it. But that doesn't mean that Jared Parker is going to be a total failure, I guess is what I'm saying. Well, I mean, that's let's see. Brian Shaw, what have you heard from sources about Parker if you're able to do some digging? So I have heard from two people about Jared Parker. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with his coaching. I just asked a couple people about like Jared Parker, like, what do you know about him? People who would know. And both had positive comments as far as like how he relates to how he relates to the players, and he's very well liked on the team, and how he's treated people like around. Like, he's a good guy. A lot of people like him, and he's like, people have very positive things to say about him. But like the coaching part, I'm not gonna blow smoke and be like, I was told that he's a genius and he knows how to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm not gonna say that, but just what I've heard of him, I think he's well liked, and both within the team and outside the Goog and without in the Notre Dame community. So that's what I've heard about him, which I guess is good. I don't know. Jimmy's and Joe's versus X and O's. We have heard that he is a very good recruiter. That was something that Matt Freeman put on the board today. He's full stop, very good recruiter. Works very hard on the recruiting trail. So, who's got a quote from Mayer on Parker? I mean, look, I will say, Michael Mayer goes out. He got Mitchell Evans ready to go really quickly. He had Holden Stays ready to go. They had who's the other freshman tight end, number 9? He moves like Kyle Rudolph. For some reason, I can't think of his name. Eli Raridan. He had him ready to go, right? So as far as being the tight end coach, I thought he had a very successful season. Vision Poet, hoping the fan base isn't unfair to Parker. None of this is his fault. Same with Freeman. I mean, look, again, if it ends up being him, and we don't know, but it isn't his fault. It isn't. he's going to interview for a job, and he hopes he gets it. And so, look, he is not my first choice. I think it's a big risk. And honestly, if there is a way for it to be someone else, I think that would be great. But if it is him, he will be evaluated the same way as everybody else, right? The successful stuff will be looked at one way. The failures will be looked at the same way. I'm not gonna give him any sort of leeway, or oh, this is his first time. Like, look, you're the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame, right? The plays need to work, and it needs to work out. It's just the way it is. He could have turned down the job. You know what? That's true. He could just say, you know what, I'm not good enough for this job. I mean, obviously he believes in himself. I don't think that's I'm not going to blame him. It's like, oh, you should have turned it down. I don't think that's fair. Raritan. Yeah. Thanks, Brent. I got that. Jason Warnock says, yeah, it's a risk, and I'd have a problem with it if it was his first choice. Absolutely. And by all accounts, it wasn't. I mean, it's been reported multiple places, including Irish Sports Daily, that Marcus Freeman called 24 coaches at least, right? I think he narrowed down the list, and then it didn't work out with Colin Klein and Andy Ludwig. Again, that's been discussed ad nauseum, and we don't need to go into it. And again, that has nothing to do with the evaluation of Jared Parker and what he could do, right? So Xander Cruz, he shouldn't believe in himself. Okay, cool. Great. Brian Shaw. Another point. Do you recognize any improvements in Mayer's game from Jared Parker this season? I thought his blocking was better. I thought the blocking was better. I mean, look, I saw something from who was it? The guy from The Athletic, Dane Brugler. He said that Michael Mayer was maybe the best contested catch tight end he's seen maybe ever, right? And I mean, since he's been scouting, I guess, so maybe not of all time, right? Maybe not. Maybe Kellen Winslow was a better contested catch guy, but I think the true mark of it is like Mitchell Evans, who came in hurt, and then he played a key role, and I think he had Holden Stays ready to go. I think he had Eli Raritan ready to go. I think Kevin Ballman was playing well when he before he got hurt. So I think that's the test, right? Like Michael Mayer, I could coach Michael Mayer, right? I mean, the guy's self-motivated. He's a great football player. He was great the moment he stepped on the field for Notre Dame. And so to me, some guys like that, you don't need to be like the greatest tight end coach to get the best out of those guys. But then you look at the other guys, you look at the freshmen, you look at the guys who have barely played. Those are the guys that I think are, that's how you can judge. And I think they did a good job, just full stop, right? I don't think anyone was unpleased with Jared Parker's job just as a tight end coach, right? So, and if he's not the OC, I think he'd be a great tight end. Having him as the tight end coach is a good thing, especially because he's such a good recruiter. Michael says, despite the Ludwig debacle, if Parker is named OC, what's the difference between Parker and Hartline, being that many showed support for Hartline? My point is OSU named him OC, and he's an unknown too. Yeah, right. So, okay. So Brian Hartline this is a good point, right? Like Brian Hartline, he has shown that he is a good developer of wide receivers, and he is a very good recruiter, right? Never called plays, and now he's calling plays for the number one offense in the country, right? And everyone's super happy about that. So what is the evidence that Brian Hartline can do a good job as an OC just on paper? There isn't. Never called plays. I mean, maybe he's involved in the game plan, but he's never called plays, right? So look, and look, he obviously has a buffer in the fact that Ryan Day is the head coach and he's the offensive guy, and Jared Parker wouldn't have that because Marcus Freeman's a defensive coach. But that's where maybe Gino Gaduli, right? Like I said, the collaboration there that could probably help. Steve Hogan, man, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate you. I don't know. I mean, look, he's the tight end coach. EK says he's the tight end coach at Notre Dame. That's the easiest position to coach. I mean, I don't know, right? Like it is, but it isn't. Like I think a lot of people weren't super happy with Chip Long when he was the tight end coach and he was the OC. You know, I mean, obviously there was the mitigating factor that he was the OC and he was focused on other things. But I mean, a lot of guys weren't very happy with what he did and how he developed them at the tight end position. So, you know, maybe it's the easiest position. A lot of people think running back is. You know, to me, it's like you got to teach them to run routes. You got to teach them to run block. And you got to be like key in the run blocking game, pass blocking game. There's a lot of moving parts to tight end. I don't think it's the easiest position. I think it's the easiest position to I think it's the easiest position to recruit, right? Like offensive line, right? So you should be able to bring in quality tight ends every single year. I think it's an easy position to recruit. I don't think it's an easy position to coach. Is Tyler in the chat? Tyler, will you be leading the charge of the boycott? Oh man, Tyler, if you haven't been here, he's got his pitchfork and picket fence ready to go. If you haven't been in here, then you'll know that I've been trying to be measured in my evaluation here. There you go, Peter Pie. I agree. Parker's real evaluation is when they hit the field. The talk now doesn't matter. Absolutely, that is absolutely true. Like especially for me, like the conjecture on it is almost like not even. It's almost like I honestly don't even like it because it doesn't matter. The process was bad. Everyone knows that, right? How they ended up where they ended up, it was not good, right? It's embarrassing for them, I'm sure. But once you got your guy, all that matters is what he does on the field and how the team plays. That's all that matters, right? And for me too, I just want to see the plays. Let's see it. Let's go out there and see it. Maybe it's good and maybe it isn't. I don't know. You know, Tommy Reese, when he got the job, he had never called plays before, right? And Brian Kelly gave it to him. Now, obviously, Brian Kelly, the offensive coach, right? The level of difficulty is going to be a lot higher for Jared Parker, unfortunately. Let's see. They also have a new quarterback taking over too. Yeah, they do. Sam Hartman. It's going to be good. Ryan Day is an offensive coach. Yep, I said that. Who finished? EK says we finished 80 in the country on offense. I don't know Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame finished 80th in the country on offense. Maybe in total offense, but I don't really care about like total yards and that sort of stuff. Tim Kelly says if we promote Watt, we're screwed. I don't think that's true. I don't think it'd be I don't think it'd be the best hire, but I don't think it's true that we'd be screwed. Kevin Simonson, spring game. This moved. Spring game overreaction inbound. Maybe that'd be great. Honestly, I'd love some good. I'd love some good overreactions in the spring. Those are really fun. I like those. Alexander, he also put Danny Dimes in the NFL and has a ton of experience. Who's Danny Dimes? I mean, I know who Danny Dimes is, but who put we got to be talking about Cutcliffe, right? Did I miss that? Why is David Cutcliffe? Oh, there we go. Vision Poet. Cutcliffe for analysts would be a nice buffer and brain trust. See, Vision Poet, I don't know about that because you have a quarterback coach. You don't need an analyst when you have a quarterback coach, right? In my opinion, I think they'd be doing separate jobs. I don't think you need to. Let's see. Sons of Saturday, Irish, Tyler. Would there have been more pressure on Reese this season if he had stayed, or Parker now after everything that has gone down? There's more pressure on Parker. Absolutely. Because people already don't like him. I think Reese, Parker has never done it. You know, Reese is. I mean, he's been a coordinator of on F plus. Let's see, 2020 he was 17th in OF plus, and in 2021 they were 20th in OF plus. So he's done it. I don't think he would really feel the pressure like that. Parker's never done it. I think he's got a ton of pressure on him. It would be if it ends up being him, it's going to be a ton. I don't know how to say this name. Smith, P. Smith. That's what I'm going to say. More than anything else, the process shows a lack of support for Freeman. I would not blame Freeman if he leaves Notre Dame at the end of the year. You know what? Here's the thing. A lot of people are saying Freeman's going to leave and stuff. And it's like, okay. But like, if he has a good season, why would you leave if you have a good season? And why would anyone want him if he doesn't have a good season? You know what I'm saying? What are you going to go be someone's DC? I don't know. I mean, because he would be taking a less job then. Why would he take a lesser job? Like if they go, even if they went 10-2, like, is he going to go get a better job somewhere else? Really? Like, I don't know. He'd have to go backward. I don't think he wants to do that. And if he doesn't do a good job, then no one's going to want to hire him at a really good job. So people say he's going to leave, but where's he going to go? Where would he go? I don't get that. Troy McIntosh was the quarterback coach at Wisconsin, just hired. He was the quarterback coach at Cincinnati. He's been at Cincinnati for the past few years. So he's a quarterback coach now, but he was brought in to quarterback to be the coach for an air raid system. That's what it was. So he's not he hasn't been at Wisconsin all this time. Thankfully. That would be bad. Yep, Troy. We're just answering that question now. If he goes 11-1, here comes Bama. I don't think so. If he goes 11-1, he'll stay at Notre Dame. I don't think he would leave. Honestly, I really don't. If they go 11-1, they've beaten at least 2 of Clemson and Ohio State and USC. He's not leaving. He's going to be like coach of the year. he would be coach of the year in that sense. Joel Easton. I'd only be worried about Freeman leaving for Ohio State or the Bears. Here's the thing. I don't see any NFL team, and this is it. I don't think this is going to happen, but I don't see any NFL team going for a college head coach. I don't. Especially one with like a defensive background. To me, if you're going to go from college to the pros, you got to have an offensive background. They're not going to bring in a defensive guy. No way. Xander Cruz, if Day gets fired, he could be Ohio State's next head coach. He could, but like, how? I mean, okay, if Day gets fired, first of all, what would Ohio State's record have to be for him to get fired? And second of all, what would Marcus Freeman's record have to be for him to be a candidate for the Ohio State job? I mean, you'd have to have a great year. I mean, it'd have to be like a playoff team, honestly. They really would. Right, but if you were Freeman, what would you do in SEC? I understand that SEC with resources, NIL, and great coaches would love to have him. Who though? Who? You'd be going backwards. Like, tell me who. If they, what do you imagine their record is? What do you imagine Notre Dame's record is? You know what I mean? It's just. If Notre Dame's record is like 9-3 or 8-4 or whatever, he's not going to get a job in an SEC program. He's not. No way. Brian Shaw says, what's being overlooked is how good our offense can be next year. Hartman makes any new hires life easier when paired with our great O-line room and running back rooms. I don't think it's been overlooked. I think what you're saying here is no matter who comes in, they're going to be pretty good based on the pieces, right? So I think the issue you kind of run into, just to play the other side of it, is that you don't want to be pretty good and being like 9-3 because you didn't have because you had a green offensive coordinator. You want to capitalize on these guys. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you're going to be a good offense. That's fine. But like what? Like top 25, top 20? Like, Notre Dame has the pieces for better than that. That's the point. That's the problem, right? To kind of just put like just to play the other side. Like, I've been looking at the positives, but the negatives of that is like, you have this great situation. You want to get the most out of it. So it's like, does Jared Parker give you the best chance to get the most out of these guys? In my opinion, there's better out there. There's better out there. But, if they don't feel like they can get it, or if they don't feel like it's a good fit or whatever, then, you do what you do. You make the best of it. But that's the thing. It's just the chances, in my opinion, of them making the best out of the guys that they have. It's just, I don't know, man. Like Jared Parker, like next year, he's got to go head to head with Lincoln Riley. He's got to go head to head with the other Riley, Garrett Riley at Clemson. And he's got to go head to head with Ryan Day and Brian Hartline at Ohio State. It's tough, man. It's tough. You want more experience there. You want more experience preparing for big games, game planning for big games, right? You want that. That's what you want. And if you go with Jared Parker, you're not going to get that, right? You're hoping for lightning in a bottle. The chances of that, like the odds, are just not good. It's not that it's impossible, but you're talking about like 10% chance that the guy is just like an absolute phenom, just like a diamond in the rough you didn't know was coming. It's tough. It's tough. I don't think it'd be a total disaster. Like, I don't think Jared Parker's going to be a total disaster, but it's like you have a situation where you bring in the right guy, and it's like, man, we can go 11-1, 12-0, right? We can run the table against this great team, or against this schedule. And now it's just like, I don't know. You feel like the floor is just, and the ceiling even drops a little bit. And that's not what you want. That is not what you want. Oh, come on, Sid Irish. I'm not even going to put that up here. Come on, man. Come on. Gino Guidugli is he's a quarterback coach. He can be a good quarterback coach, right? He's not calling plays. He's a quarterback coach. He can do a good job. Come on. Come on. Michael says lightning in a bottle is the same hope with Freeman, though. No head coach experience. That's true, but it is different when you're in charge of a specific unit. It is different. Like you could take a fly. It's almost easier to take a flyer on a head coach with good assistants. It's like Deion Sanders, right? It's almost like it doesn't matter how good you are if your assistants are great. And if you have really good assistants, you have really good coordinators, that makes a big deal. It really does. It really does, man. There are so many like figurehead head coaches out there that don't really do much, but they've got a good operation with their assistants and their coordinators. And like, look at Dabo, right? Look at Dabo. He was just kind of a guy doing stuff. He was a wide receiver coach, and he was doing okay. And then he got why am I messing up with the names? The defensive coordinator. Someone put it in the chat. My brain is not working right now. There's too much going on. You know what I'm saying? They got the who's now the coach at Oklahoma, right? Like he got that guy, and all of a sudden you got the good assistants, and then it started happening for him, right? And the recruiting picked up, and then it started happening for him. And that's what you're hoping for, right? But it's not like Dabo's like a brilliant offensive. Brent, that's right. That's right. Brent Venables. There we go. Man, sometimes like you do these live shows and your brain just like stops working. It looks really silly. Michael says Stuckey seems to have worked out so far. Although only a wide receiver coach, Freeman seems to be doing okay with his hires. I mean, to be honest, like, okay, Stuckey good, let's just go through the hires. Stuckey, good. Jared Parker, good. From the tight end coach point of view, I think that worked out. I mean, Heastan was obviously a good hire, but he left. Like, to me, it's like that almost goes to like a bad hire, right? Because he was only around for a year, and it's like he couldn't stand to work for anyone apparently who wasn't Tommy Rees or Chip Long. Which, if you had known that, I mean, I don't think it was a secret that Tommy wasn't going to be super long for Notre Dame. So that wasn't great. But I mean, he was a good hire, so I guess you can count him how you want. Al Washington, not a terrible hire. Kind of like, I don't know, jury's kind of still out on that. Al Golden, jury's probably still out on that. Let's see, Mickens wasn't his. O'Leary wasn't his. Who am I missing? Brian Mason, home run. Absolutely, home run. And let's see, who else am I missing? Tommy Rees wasn't his, obviously. And Dylan McCullough. I think if he stays at Notre Dame, I think if Dylan McCullough stays at Notre Dame, then I think that's a really good hire. If he leaves, then it's like, I don't know, man. It's another one that's like one and out. Let's see. Michael Campbell says Gino Guidugli has a third-round pick quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who is the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons now, and that trumps everything Brian Kelly and Tommy Rees could do. Deshaun Kaiser was a second-round pick, but it's a point taken. Point taken, I think. I mean, look, he did a good job with him. Gino Guidugli as a quarterback coach, I think is a good choice. In my opinion, I don't think anyone should have like seriously strong objections to that. You really shouldn't. He's a good coach, and I think and honestly, I think he'll be invaluable to Jared Parker if he did get a job. In all seriousness, I think those two together, I think that has the potential to be a good working combination. Right? What's the ceiling there? I don't know. But I think it's a good hire. I really do. Sid Irish, Harry was a tad overrated. He was no Joe Moore. I think he is a tad overrated, to be honest with you. Xander Cruz says offensive hires, good. Defensive mid. Mason, excellent. I mean, defensive to me you could say mid if you want. That's fine. I don't totally disagree. I would say it's we'll see in year two. We'll see in year two. If we still think they're mid, then I would even say that like there's not good hires because you don't want mid. Travis Rivas says Parker is 100% going to be the OC at this point. No real candidate is going to come here after the Ludwig Clown Show fiasco. Ludwig Clown Show fiasco. That's funny. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, like maybe it looks bad for a bit, but it's like it's Notre Dame still. It's still Notre Dame, and the pieces are all still there. Michael says, where would we be if Swarbrick never forced Tommy on Marcus? Marcus should be able to hire his staff. The Tommy deal put the wheels in motion for this mess, in my opinion. So where would we be? Well, I think Swarbrick said they wouldn't have hired Marcus Freeman if Tommy Rees wasn't coming back. So I think we'd be in a vastly different place. There would be no Marcus Freeman. There would be no Tommy Rees. Maybe you would have Luke Fickell as your head coach with completely different players because they all would have left. And I don't know. It would just be it looked totally different. Here's the other thing too, is you can trace back and say Tommy put the wheels in motion for this, but you do have Notre Dame had a year to kind of get ready for this, to prepare for this. They had a long time. It wasn't a secret that there was a good chance that Tommy Rees would move on, and after a year, and they either were not prepared or just, I don't know. I think there was enough time and enough knowledge for them to have handled it much better than they did. So it's true that not letting him hire his own guy, really hurt things. But at the same time, they should have been able to adjust. They had time to do it. They really did. Let's see. Brent Smith, the fan base is not going to accept being a second-rate team. Less season tickets, selling them, empty seats, and less viewership. Maybe. And people say that. Usually they just keep watching. It's usually what happens. Michael says, but obviously Tommy took it personal that Marcus got the head coach job. Not sure the two got along. I don't know if he took it personal. I mean, look at it. He wanted it, right? He wanted it. He's a quick riser, man. He's a quick riser. He's I don't know. I don't know if they got along or if they didn't get along. I don't think they didn't get along. I just think they weren't buds. They wanted different things. Ultimately, like out from their career. So, Steve Hogan, thanks, man. Great job, Greg. Hang in. You were catching the emotional overlord PTSD from the 80s move. I'm ready to turn the page with you. All right, Steve. We'll be here, man. Hit the like. Hit subscribe. Subscribe to the show. If this is your first time listening, thank you for tuning in. Hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know we're going live. This was an impromptu. Maybe not watching from the stadium. Maybe, Sean. I mean, look, it is possible that people are like, you know what? I usually go out for a game, once a year or twice a year. And this year they don't. It's very possible. All right. Let's see. Michael Campbell says, without Freeman hire, we never get this recruiting, but we definitely needed an offensive coordinator who's not ready anyway. Tommy Rees never had enough quarterback coach success in development. Yeah, it's a good point. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I got to get going. So thanks for tuning in. We are going to stay tuned with us. Me and Jamie are going to have our regular show tomorrow. We'll talk about more developments and that sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff going on. We'll see what happens with the OC thing, right? We'll see if the Jared Parker gets confirmed or if there's someone else, another name that comes out. We'll see about the offensive line, and we'll see about the rest of it. So thanks for tuning in. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned with irishsportsdaily.com, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning.